Welcome to Adu Globe. Discover new ideas, learn exciting things, and be amazed every day. On Ukraine's Independence Day, a shockwave rippled across the battlefield. A strike that Russia never expected has now captured global attention. What really happened, and why is the world watching so close? Just weeks ago, Russia seemed firm in its positions across Donetsk. But the latest reports suggest a sudden breach. Ukraine, on its symbolic day of independence, delivered a surprise maneuver that caught even military analysts off guard. This isn't just another battlefield update, it's a moment that could redefine strategies on both sides. Experts warn that small symbolic victories often grow into game-changing momentum. Could this Independence Day strike be that very moment? In the eastern front of Ukraine, one region has become the center of the storm, Donetsk. And within Donetsk, a city named Pokrovsk has turned into a symbol of strategic survival. This city isn't just a dot on the map, it is a gateway. Whoever holds Pokrovsk controls critical supply routes, rail lines, and roads that connect deeper into Ukraine. Imagine a chessboard. Capturing Pokrovsk means breaking the opponent's defense and opening the way toward the heart of the battlefield. In the past month, Russia has been pushing hard. Village by village, block by block, their forces tried to expand their control in Donetsk. They used artillery bombardments, armored columns, and wave tactics to weaken Ukrainian lines. Several small towns around Pokrovsk were seized, creating a tightening circle around the city. But the cost was heavy. Destroyed tanks, burning vehicles, and huge casualties on both sides. The battlefield has turned into a graveyard of machinery and lives, with every inch of land contested. For Ukraine, the situation became critical. With Russian forces pressing closer, the Ukrainian army faced a moment of truth: defend or lose a vital stronghold. Supplies were running low, soldiers exhausted, and the enemy's pressure was relentless. Yet, history shows us that when Ukraine is pushed against the wall, they strike back harder. Behind closed doors, military planners work day and night, not just to defend Pokrovsk, but to launch a counterattack that could turn the tide. This is where the drama begins. Intelligence reports indicated that Russia was overextending. Their supply lines were stretched thin, and their troops scattered. Ukraine saw an opening. The strategy was simple but dangerous. Let the enemy advance, then hit them where they least expect it. Pokrovsk became not just a city to defend, but a trap being set for the Russian advance. Every street, every building, every ruined house became part of a larger plan, a battlefield designed to bleed the invader. The night in Donetsk was supposed to be calm, but at Mykhylivka and Zeleny High, silence shattered. Ukrainian forces launched a surprise night assault, using darkness as their shield. Small strike groups moved quietly, avoiding main roads, cutting across fields, and suddenly appearing behind Russian outposts. This wasn't random. It was carefully planned flanking maneuvers, designed to confuse and overwhelm the defenders. Explosions lit up the horizon as Russian units scrambled, realizing they were under attack from unexpected directions. By early morning, Ukrainian units pressed forward into Volodymyrivka. Russian defenses, expecting a frontal clash, were caught off guard by multi-directional strikes. Instead of attacking the strongest points, Ukrainians targeted supply routes and communication hubs. This forced Russian troops to abandon well-prepared trenches and fall back. Drone footage revealed convoys moving in retreat, while Ukrainian assault teams advanced cautiously, clearing streets one by one. The flanking wasn't just a tactic, it was the core of the counterattack, designed to collapse the frontline like a domino. At Novomykhailivka, fighting intensified. Ukrainian forces used a combination of surprise and coordinated artillery strikes. Instead of prolonged bombardments, they chose short, precise attacks, allowing infantry to move immediately after. The goal was speed, not destruction. Russian troops, facing pressure from both flanks, began withdrawing in confusion. Commanders ordered a fallback to secondary positions, but by then, the line had already bent backward. Maps started to change. Areas marked red just days ago were now contested, flashing yellow on military screens. What looked impossible weeks earlier now became reality. Russian defenses in parts of the Donetsk sector were forced to pull back. The counterattack didn't just recover land, it shifted momentum. Analysts described it as a psychological victory, proving that strategic planning could break even the most fortified positions. Pokrovsk, once seen as the next Russian objective, now stood safer. The counterattack showed that wars are not only about numbers but about strategy, surprise, and the will to fight back. For the Russian troops on the front lines, this counterattack was more than just another military maneuver, it was a psychological earthquake. Soldiers who had once felt secure behind fortified lines suddenly found themselves on the defensive, retreating under pressure. Eyewitness accounts suggest panic in certain units as night assaults and flanking tactics spread confusion. The belief that their positions were unshakable had been broken. Behind the battlefield lies the lifeline of war, supply chains. The Ukrainian push near Mykhailovka and Volodymyrivka didn't just force Russian troops back, it threatened their supply lines. Trucks carrying ammunition and fuel suddenly faced ambushes, drone strikes, and roadblocks. For any army, without steady logistics, even the strongest force begins to collapse. Experts warn that Pokrovsk's counterpressure may ripple deep into Russia's military planning, forcing them to divert resources. For weeks, Pokrovsk was under constant threat. Russian artillery and advances made it seem as though the city would soon be encircled. But this counterattack shifted the balance. Ukrainian maneuvers forced Russian units to pull back reinforcements, giving Pokrovsk breathing space. Civilians who once lived under daily fear of bombardments now feel a flicker of hope. The symbolic importance of Pokrovsk surviving is enormous. It shows that Ukrainian resistance still has the strength to turn the tide. Military analysts believe this counterattack is not an isolated event, but part of a larger strategy. If morale continues to sink, logistics remain disrupted, and Pokrovsk stays defended, the Russian military might face long-term fatigue. A war is not only won with weapons but with momentum. Ukraine's move has shown that even after months of pressure, it can still strike back with impact. The Ukrainian counterattack did not remain hidden for long. Within hours, Western media outlets and intelligence briefings picked up the story. Headlines described the moves near Mykhailovka and Novomykhailovka as a significant pushback. Analysts on television highlighted the precision and timing of the strikes, noting how they combined night assaults with flanking maneuvers. Some reports even suggested this counteroffensive could become a turning point, if sustained. Intelligence agencies quietly hinted that Russia's front lines may not be as strong as previously assumed, sparking debates in European capitals about next steps. Inside Russia, however, the narrative looked very different. State-controlled media presented the counterattack as a minor incident, downplaying the scale of Ukrainian advances. Anchors repeated lines about how Russian defenses were still intact and that Ukrainian gains were temporary at best. Commentators framed it as a desperate move by Kyiv to show strength for Western backers. This contrasting narrative shows how war is fought not only with weapons, but also with words. Perception can be just as important as battlefield results. While the battles unfolded on the ground, the geopolitical stage lit up. NATO officials quickly released cautious statements, praising Ukraine's resilience but avoiding language that could escalate tensions. Behind the scenes, however, reports emerged of new weapons shipments being considered. Discussions about long-range missiles, armored vehicles, and advanced air defense systems surfaced in Washington and Brussels. The U.S. intelligence community reportedly analyzed how Ukrainian tactics in villages like Zeleny High could be amplified with better equipment. This created speculation. Was NATO preparing to quietly step up support? Beyond the immediate players, the counterattack sent ripples worldwide. Markets in energy and defense stocks reacted. Diplomats in neutral countries discussed whether the conflict was escalating to a new phase. The fact that Ukraine could strike back so forcefully raised questions about how long global support could remain united. This moment wasn't just about one counterattack, it was about the narrative of endurance on both sides, and how the world chooses to interpret it. The counterattack raises a burning question: what if Ukraine keeps pushing forward? Military experts suggest that if Kyiv's forces secure more villages, like they did in Mykhailovka and Volodymyrivka, it could shift the entire balance of the front. Each captured position forces Russia to stretch its defenses thinner, opening opportunities for deeper strikes. Some analysts believe this might pressure Moscow into reinforcing lines elsewhere, possibly at the cost of leaving other regions vulnerable. In war, gaining ground isn't just about territory, it's about forcing your opponent into difficult choices. If Ukraine advances, Russia will not remain silent. The big mystery is, where would Moscow strike back? Analysts point to the southern sectors near Donetsk, or even attempts to push around Novomykhailivka to cut off supply lines. Some believe Russia might use mass artillery barrages or deploy newly rotated units to surprise Ukrainian defenses. A counterattack could come not just on land, but through drone and missile strikes, aiming to disrupt logistics and weaken morale before winter sets in. Winter has always been a decisive factor in wars fought in Eastern Europe. The coming months could freeze the battlefield into a brutal stalemate. Snow and ice can slow down tanks, jam weapons, and make movement nearly impossible. Yet, winter also provides cover for night raids, ambushes, and stealth operations. Some historians say, winter favors the side that is better prepared logistically. Supplies, warm clothing, and fuel may matter more than the number of soldiers. The question is, which side has the endurance to fight through the frost? For months, Pokrovsk has been the pressure point. With Ukraine's recent counter-offensives, the city has gained some breathing space, but the threat is far from over. If Russia reorganizes and launches concentrated strikes, Pokrovsk could once again become a frontline target. On the other hand, if Ukraine secures nearby villages and supply routes, the city might evolve into a fortified hub for future offensives. The fate of Pokrovsk depends not just on battles already fought, but on those still to come. As we reach the end of this story, let's look back at what has unfolded. Ukraine's counteroffensive didn't just capture villages, it captured global attention. The gains in Mykhailivka, Volodymyrivka, and surrounding areas may look small on the map, but they carry massive symbolic weight. These victories show that even in the face of overwhelming odds, determination and strategy can shift the tempo of war. For Ukraine, this isn't just about holding ground, it's about proving resilience to both allies and adversaries. What makes these victories important is not just territory, but the psychological impact. Russian forces are now forced to reevaluate their positions, while Ukraine has boosted the morale of its soldiers and citizens. Every game, no matter how small, sends a message: the tide can shift. These moments may also shape how international allies view the conflict, encouraging continued support, intelligence sharing, and supplies. In wars of endurance, confidence is as critical as firepower. But the real curiosity lies in what comes next. Will these victories derail Russia's larger plans, or are they just temporary pauses before another major offensive? The battlefield remains unpredictable, and history has shown us that a single move can spark a new chain of events. The biggest question now: where will the next turning point emerge? Will it be around Pokrovsk, in the southern sectors, or perhaps in an entirely unexpected region? This story is still being written, and your thoughts matter just as much as the breaking headlines. Share your perspective, because discussions like this spark awareness and deeper understanding. Right finger if you found this analysis insightful. Don't forget to like, thumbs up, comment, speech balloon, and subscribe bell. Your engagement helps this community grow, and ensures we can keep exploring the most critical developments shaping our world.